Beep, 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 beep. Hello. Welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. What have I got for you today? Well, we are going to pay a visit to the Americas today with a story from yahoo.com. I think this is an indicator. We're seeing more and more of these stories, and I think it's a very good thing. So I hope that you'll agree with me. But do let me know in the doobries where it all is. Could you share this, please, if you would? Subscribe, buy me a coffee, send me a super thanks if you can help out. Usual stuff, right? From the Gaston Gazette, which is Yahoo is hosting here, lawsuit targets Gastonia doctor for gender reassignment surgery. And it's about a woman called Prisha Mosley. It's sad, but I also think it's indicative of what's happened to a lot of people and where we're going with it. It's very sad indeed. A woman who thought she was transgender as a teenager alleges in a lawsuit that a Gaston County surgical practice and other medical providers lied to her about her gender identity, leading her to make irreversible medical decisions. Charlie Mosley, who now uses the name Prisha Mosley, alleges in a lawsuit filed in Gaston County Superior Court that two therapists in Greensboro, a paediatrician in Chapel Hill, and a surgeon in Gastonia misled her about her gender identity and the effects of gender-affirming care. We are going to see more of this, folks, right? I believe that there's a number of detransitioners or people who detransition are on TikTok now. There seems to be a flood starting, and we can expect it to be a very large flood, a tsunami of damaged folk. And I think this is just another one of those examples. But it's the fact that it's a lawsuit that's interesting, that is lawfare that is being used here. The lawsuit names Dr. Eric T. Emerson, a doctor at Piedmont Plastic Surgery and Dermatology, Bree Klein Fowler, a therapist at Family Solutions, and Shanna Gordon, a therapist at Tree of Life Counselling, alongside Dr. Martha Fairbanks Perry, a doctor who then worked at Cone Medical Services. This poor woman. According to the lawsuit, Prisha Mosley's troubles began at the age of 14, when she was sexually assaulted and suffered a miscarriage. At age 15, she was hospitalised for a week at Moses Cone Memorial Hospital for depression. And by 16, her diagnosis included major depressive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and an eating disorder. For those, she was prescribed multiple medications, including an antipsychotic. This was obviously a very unwell child. She was 16 at the time. In November 2014, she was referred to a dietitian at Cone Health, and the dietitian referred her to Perry. Under Perry's supervision, Mosley told a medical resident that she felt she was transgender and that she wanted top surgery, a surgery to remove her breasts in order to become male, the lawsuit states. Well, we know that that's an impossibility, but this is a young woman who was raped at 14, was sexually assaulted at 14, and had a baby that was miscarried. You think she might be running from her womanhood? I certainly think so. I certainly think so. And the professionals here do appear not to have recognised that in any format whatsoever. We're seeing this repeated. Once that idea that you're trans comes into play, they throw everything out the window. And what's important is that we understand that trans, the idea of being trans, the idea of gender dysphoria, is a symptom. And although you might alleviate the symptoms, what you do is treat the cause. And the cause is all the underlying comorbidities that this young woman had. Okay? She was diagnosed at that point as having a gender identity crisis. This is made up crap. There's no such thing as a gender identity crisis. It wasn't a gender identity crisis. If anything, it was to do with her personality and the way she sees herself and her mental health. Okay? Despite her ongoing mental health problems, Perry validated Mosley's struggles with her gender identity. They see it, they want to validate it, they do. It's the latest thing. Oh dear. And going behind her parents' backs to move her into gender transition, the lawsuit states. Remember, this is what the lawsuit states, not me. At age 17, Perry guided Mosley further into gender transition, and Mosley indicated that she could not wait to turn 18 and have the surgery, the lawsuit says. Mosley eventually met with Gordon, a therapist, who allegedly told her she was actually a boy. Gordon, it seems, is a moron. Gordon allegedly misled Mosley into believing that she was a boy and that changing her body would solve her psychological problems, the lawsuit states. The lawsuit alleges that Perry ignored red flags, what a surprise, such as Mosley's suicidal ideation, and prescribed her testosterone injections to aid in her transition. Mosley says that she was not informed about possible side effects, including vaginal atrophy, the inability to have sexual intercourse, a permanent voice change, pain in her shoulders, neck and vaginal area, and possible infertility. What you are seeing laid out by this lawsuit is the story of how you trans an individual. That's what it is. In this case, this young woman may well be a lesbian, or she might not. But if this isn't some form of conversion therapy, if she is, I've no idea what is. This is the very definition of conversion therapy. The very definition. Gordon and Klein Fowler both wrote letters recommending Mosley for gender-affirming care, the lawsuit states. In 2016, Mosley had an appointment with Emerson, and on December the 8th, 2016, Emerson surgically removed Mosley's breasts, the lawsuit says. Mosley could not be reached for comment, but in an interview with a conservative media organisation, EWTN News Nightly, she stated that what led up to her transition was mental illness, a fast and strong puberty, a sexual assault, and online indoctrination. This is textbook, isn't it, folks? Textbook. I was affirmed by my doctors. There was no pushback. There were only lies and promises of cures, she said. Mosley said that she now has medical problems from the effects of the testosterone and the surgery, but she cannot find help. We hear this time and again. We hear this time and again. The biggest provision for medical help should be for detransitioners moving forward. The rest can wait. But she cannot find help. My shoulders are overgrown and my hips are too small. I have severe vaginal atrophy, which makes my sexual organs dysfunctional. I am most likely infertile. I'll never have my breast back, and I suffer from phantom breast syndrome as well, she said. Which is similar, I think. You probably heard of phantom legs, but when people lose a leg, they feel like the leg's still there. Mosley's Twitter account indicates that she's been serving as a detransitioner activist in order to bolster legislation that would make it harder for transgender people, particularly minors, to access gender-affirming care. Good for her. Good for her. We've seen this. We've seen this before. The strength in Chloe Cole, in Richie. You know, Sinead. We've seen this before. We know what comes next. And that being part of stopping this from happening to other people is a very important part, I think, of the detransition process. That feeling that you're going to aid others to ensure it doesn't happen again. There's some real meaning in that. So they want to make it harder for transgender people, particularly minors. What does transgender people even mean? Doesn't mean anything. To access gender-affirming care, one such law was recently passed in North Carolina. HB 808 would make it illegal for medical professionals to perform gender reassignment surgery or offer puberty-blocking drugs or cross-sex hormones to minors. Although Government Roy Cooper vetoed the bill, the legislature is expected to override the veto on August the 7th, according to the Carolina Journal. Good. Good. The falsity of gender identity needs to be removed entirely from all medical practice. In a TikTok video Mosley shared on Twitter, Mosley, now a student in Michigan, spoke publicly about appearing to address in this public statement lawmakers. Please, don't let other vulnerable children, mentally ill children, become a lifelong medical patient like me. Let them keep their healthy bodies, she said. I support any bill that prevents someone else from suffering the harms of gender-affirming care. We're going to see more of this, and I think we're already beginning to. I mentioned previously the TikTok videos. I do wish this young lady well, because at the one time when she needed the adults around her, we were absent.